Ever heard of the Witches' Sabbath? Like secret gatherings, strange rituals, maybe even a little midnight flight thrown in for good measure.
Sounds a bit like a Halloween party gone wrong, right?
Yeah, something like that. But seriously, the idea of the Witches' Sabbath is more than just spooky stories. It actually reveals a lot about history, beliefs, fears. That's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, full of twists and turns. Where do you even begin with something like that?
Well, we're starting with this book, Night Battles, by Carlo Ginzburg. He really digs deep into how this whole concept evolved. And trust me, it's way more interesting than just witches and cauldrons.
Oh, I bet. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so picture this. It's the late Middle Ages. People are freaking out about witches. You know the drill, right? Superstition, religious fanaticism.
Right, like the Salem witch trials, that kind of thing. Burning at the stake, all that.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But what Ginsburg does is he goes deeper. He's like, okay, there's clearly a witch craze happening, but where did this idea even come from?
I mean, it can't just appear out of thin air, right? There's got to be something feeding into it, some kind of, I don't know, historical context.
You're totally right. And that's where it gets really cool. Ginsburg, he approaches this whole thing like an anthropologist.
Yeah.
Like he's not just reading trial records, he's looking at folklore, mythology, even language itself to trace the roots of these beliefs.
Wow, going full Sherlock Holmes on witchcraft. I like it. So what kind of clues did he uncover? What did he find?
Well, he noticed these recurring themes, these patterns popping up in confessions and folklore. And get this, they actually predate the big witch hunts everyone knows about.
So these ideas were already floating around even before the whole witch craze kicked off.
Exactly. Like he found mentions of something called the Society of Diana in these old inquisitorial records. Rings a bell.
Maybe. Hold on, refresh my memory. Diana, like the Roman goddess?
Bingo. Goddess of the hunt, the moon, the wilderness. But here's where things get really interesting. The church, they saw Diana as a way to demonize older pagan beliefs. See, Diana was linked to these nighttime gatherings, out in the woods under the moon. And the church was like, nope, those aren't harmless rituals. Those are gatherings of witches in league with the devil.
Oh, wow. So they're taking something that already exists, something people believe in, and they're giving it a sinister twist.
Exactly. They're basically hijacking existing fears and anxieties and saying, look, all that stuff you're afraid of, that's the devil's work. And those women you see gathering at night, they're not your harmless neighbors. They're witches.
Wow. Talk about a power move. So they're taking these older beliefs and twisting them to fit their own narrative, their own anxieties about heresy and witchcraft. That's fascinating.
Right. It's like a cultural mashup, centuries in the making. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. So we've got secret gatherings, a powerful goddess, and the church come in like, nope, that's the devil's work. It's like the plot of a horror movie.
No, it gets even better because Ginsburg, he's like, hold my beer. He finds this other layer to the whole thing.
Oh, lay it on me. What do you find?
Well, he starts noticing these connections to shamanism.
Okay, now you're talking my language. Actually, you know what? Maybe not everyone listening is a shamanism buff. Could you give us a quick rundown?
Sure. So picture like a spiritual guide, right? But like next level, they can journey to other worlds, talk to spirits, even experience death and rebirth. This is shamanism.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. So what do shamans have to do with the witches' Sabbath?
Ginsburg starts finding traces of these shamanic practices popping up all over the place connected to these witch beliefs. It's wild. Like, he found this group in Italy, the Benedonti. They claimed to be these, like, protectors of the harvest. They'd go on these intense spiritual journeys battling evil forces in the spirit world.
Hold up, they were fighting for the harvest.
Yeah.
Against evil. They sound like the good guys.
That's the thing. They believed they were protecting the community, ensuring a good harvest, all that good stuff. And get this, they'd use fennel stalks in their rituals.
Fennel, like the herb fennel.
Yep, fennel. Sounds kind of funny. But in folklore, it symbolized protection, purification. It was like their spiritual weapon of choice.
Okay, I kind of love that. They're out there battling supernatural baddies with fennel.
Right. But here's the thing. Ginsburg, he finds similar practices in other cultures too. Like the Hungarian Taltos also believed to have these supernatural powers. Even Siberian shamans had these really similar rituals and beliefs. It's like this huge interconnected web of traditions spanning continents, all pointing back to these ecstatic experiences, spiritual battles, night flights, you name it.
So we've got ancient traditions, secret gatherings, the church freaking out, and now shamans fighting evil with fennel. That's a lot to process. How on earth did all of this get mashed up into this idea of the witches' Sabbath that we know today?
That is the million-dollar question. And Ginsburg, he's not just drawing parallels here. He wants to understand how these ancient beliefs got reshaped by the anxieties of the time. We're talking the 14th and 15th centuries. The Black Death is raging, society's in chaos, people are desperate for answers, for someone to blame.
Ah, I see where you're going with this. So instead of like benevolent shamanic protectors, we get this image of witches making deals with the devil flying around causing trouble. Like, that's quite a jump.
Right. But it makes sense in a way, doesn't it? People are scared, they're looking for someone to blame, and along comes this idea of the witch's Sabbath. It's like the perfect scapegoat. It explains the unexplainable.
And those who don't fit in, who hold on to these older traditions, they become easy targets. Like, suddenly your grandma, who knows how to use herbs for medicine, she's suspected of being a witch.
Yeah, it's kind of a terrifying thought when you really think about it. All those people persecuted because of these beliefs, these anxieties.
So this witch's Sabbath, this image that's been around for centuries, it's not just a spooky story. It's like this echo of real historical anxieties, real fears, real events.
Exactly. And Ginsburg, he wasn't trying to prove or disprove witchcraft. He wanted to understand how this whole concept developed, how it reflects these deeper cultural anxieties, which I think is brilliant.
It really makes you think, though, doesn't it? Like, what stories are we telling ourselves today? What anxieties and fears are shaping how we see the world, how we see each other?
Right. Like, what will future historians see when they look back at our time? What will they say about our beliefs, our fears? It's a fascinating question, and I think Ginsburg's work gives us a really interesting framework for thinking about it.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, a huge thank you to our expert for taking us on this incredible journey through history, folklore, and a little bit of shamanism, too.
It's been my pleasure. This stuff is so interesting, I could talk about it all day.
Me too. But for now, we'll leave it there. For all you listeners, keep asking questions, keep digging deeper. And remember, sometimes the truth is way more interesting than any story we could make up.